a lot of the jokes that were supposed to hold you over like didn't work. So we cut so many jokes on it because they just fell flat. And so it ended up being, a comedy that was like 17 minutes long with no jokes in it. And it was so nerve-wracking because we had no idea if anybody would like it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chopping It Up.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Shaw.
We're just two editors here talking about the art of editing. And this week, it's a little rough out there, isn't it, Shaw?
Yeah, it is. I think the whole industry is hurting right now. So hopefully things will start to pick up. I heard like reality shows are way down, and I heard scripted shows are down considerably, like 10 times less, right? Is that true on pilot season?
It's pretty bleak. I hear that it's going to start picking back up. There's commercials are picking back up, I've heard, which is good for those crews and everything, but it's not the best.
It's not ideal.
It's not ideal right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully you saved up some money. And if not, you can always teach editing, and stuff like that.
Or start an editing podcast.
Or start an editing podcast too. Yes, correct. Trying to move on from depressing stuff. Who do we have on the show this week?
Well, this week, I think we're interviewing a really renowned, great editor. You, Jeffrey Hall. Jeff Hall. Yes.
Great. Awesome.
And you have cut on such shows as Dave, American Auto, Acapulco, Speechless, and my personal favorite will always be my favorite, Community.
Yes, I did do those shows.
All right, excellent. So yeah, let's get into it. Number one, what was your favorite show to cut?
Well, yeah, Community was definitely the show where I cut on it. I was like, man, I would watch this show. That was like the first one, and like. It's hard to say because when you're working on a show, like you kind of have to drink the Kool-Aid, so you end up like liking the show that you're cutting. So I've pretty much liked every show that I've worked on,
or just hating everything because you've worked so much on it, right?
Sometimes.
I mean, not hating it, but you're just like it's hard to have perspective, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You've seen it so many times and stuff like that.
So many times, right?
Yeah. But I don't know. It's tough. There's definitely like a couple episodes per show that I'm proud of and everything.
Right.
Yeah. I haven't been ashamed of working on any shows or anything.
Okay, well, hey, that's more than I can say.
Yeah. I mean, when I worked in reality, I definitely worked on some stuff I was ashamed to work on.
That wasn't great.
No.
So what? How'd you get started? Like in college, did you study film or what did you? How did it all go down? Or where are you from, first of all?
I am from the lovely state of Ohio.
Great.
Near the city of Akron, Ohio.
Great.
Yeah, and so I went to the University of Akron, go Zips, and basically they didn't have like a film department. They just had a communications school where they just kind of got you ready to work in like a newsroom. One of the shows that they had was like a Entertainment Tonight kind of show.
Okay.
Or whatever. And but they had segments of different things, and me and my friend Bill, we did like the Nerd Alert, which was basically like reviews of video games and stuff. Me and him like edited, like I would film him, he was like the host, and I would film him, and then he would record like game footage, and then I would cut it together. And we would like basically do the reviews or whatever and stuff. Yeah. And after the first one, like the head of the professor that was the head of the show basically says this is how you do a package. We want all our packages to look like this or whatever and stuff. And so that gave me a lot of confidence. And then everybody started asking me to like do all their packages and stuff. And I was like,
so what were you cutting the packages on?
DV Pro, which was the prosumer version or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I think I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like we had like News Cutter, but we never used that on the show that we were working on.
Okay.
I kind of decided like, if I get certified in Avid, I could probably get a job working in movies or working on TV or something. And so they basically, there was a couple
So,
places I looked at.
like, did they tell you that, oh, you got to learn Avid to work in entertainment?
I didn't hear that from anybody. I just assumed that I would
Oh,
need something like that.
then how do you get your first job, or what happened then?
One of the teachers that I had, I had become like friendly with, and
Nice.
it was my friend Mark, and I basically asked him, I was like, hey, like I'm graduating, like if you hear of anything, and he's like, well, actually, like I need an assistant he was like an online editor, and he basically needed somebody to like basically upres all the footage for it to be ready for him in the morning to like finish the online and output it kind of thing. And so basically my job was to go there at night, upres all the footage, bring in all the graphics, make sure everything lined up with with the chase reel or whatever.
Nice.
And yeah, that was my first job. And
Cool.
basically that was like right before the housing crisis. So when I started, there was like three shifts of people, and there was like every shift was like filled with like 20, 40 people like working. And by the time I was done, it was like me and this one guy, and he was trying to take my job, or he was trying to learn my job so he could stay. And once I realized that he was like asking me how to do everything, I was like, oh crap, I gotta find another job and stuff.
Well, you're gonna say no, right? It's like,
Oh
nah, I'm
no,
not
no,
gonna
no.
tell
They
you.
were like basically said like, hey, like you need to teach him how to do this. And I was like,
Oh.
yeah. So they're like, even the writing was on the wall.
So what was this place doing? Was it doing TV or movies, or what kind of stuff was it doing?
It did like TV. It did like reality shows for the Speed Network, and then
Okay.
those shows went down to like one show, basically one or two shows, and
Right,
so
right.
everybody kind of So we all got to let go, and then I found out about a wonderful place called Go Go Lucky.
Yeah, that's where I met Jeff. And
Yeah,
yeah, we worked on, what did we work on? Jockeys, right? Jockeys.
Jockeys and Paranormal State and
Yeah, that's right.
Hot chicks and scary places. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
I only worked on like a few shows at that place or whatever, but
Well, that's awesome. All right. And then from then on, and then, so how did you get into scripted then after that?
so I got a job. My friend Drew, he got a job on a scripted show because he had worked helped us one editor on like the first Red feature or something like that, and that
Mm,
editor got him in the union and stuff like that. And so they had hired somebody to work nights on the show that he was working on, and basically he hated it and he didn't want it because he didn't like scriptering. Basically, he asked me if I would want to do scriptering and like get the dailies ready and stuff, and I was like, sure. I mean, like at least I took that job because like it was a scripted show, and I was like, well, at
right,
least
of course.
I'd have it on my resume or something like that, and I could find another job,
Yeah,
after the other job, or after the one job that I was at, because it was so bad. I was just like, anyway, yeah.
sure.
But he said it was only for like a month or whatever, and
Hmm.
if they liked me, that I would my contract would be picked up for like the year or whatever and stuff like that. And so because it was like a new show,
Yeah.
that they didn't know if it was going to be picked up for the entire season yet or anything. So I got that job, and that job ended up being Community, which was awesome. But
That's awesome. That's
yeah,
great.
I didn't realize like how lucky I was at the time.
Yeah,
So
that's
like that.
very
But
lucky. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then you got to edit on that, right? How did that go down exactly?
In the second season, they hired this guy that just like didn't work out with Dan. Like they just didn't get it. Like they didn't see eye to eye about stuff
And
or whatever.
what's his name? His or her name? Can you spell that out?
I
I'm
mean, I can
just
say their
kidding. I'm
name.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't tell us. Come on.
I don't
Come
want to
on,
say it. I'm
man.
not going to say it.
All right, good.
I thought about it for a second, but then I was like that. Because like he's an awesome editor. Like
Okay.
he's edited like some of my favorite movies of all time and stuff like that. So it's not
Oh,
like he was bad.
nice.
He just didn't get along with Dan
It
or
was just
whatever.
it was a bad fit.
Yeah, they just didn't see eye to eye about
Yeah.
jokes and stuff like that. So
Gotcha.
basically after he left, I had like overheard them talking or whatever and stuff, and then I think I had talked to Ruthie. Basically, I overheard that they were kind of in a pinch, basically. And I was just like, and I talked to Ruthie and I was like, well, what's just us fucking do it or whatever and
Right,
stuff. Like,
right,
I mean, what's the worst that could happen, you know? So one night when I went into my boss's office and I was like, listen, I know this is kind of far fetched or whatever, but since you don't have anybody, like, why don't you let the assistants do it? And if it's terrible, you know, at
right,
least there's an assembly for the new editor that comes in.
right,
And,
right.
you know, and he's just kind of like, couldn't say yes because that's not allowed, but you could tell like that would really fucking help me out if you would do that or whatever and stuff. So
Gotcha.
basically, so yeah, so I basically, so we did it. Yeah, so me and Ruthie ended up like cutting the episode together and stuff, and then like every step of the way, we thought we were getting fired. So we like got our episode done. We showed it to my boss and one of the other editors that was kind of like our mentor and stuff.
Yeah,
And basically, like they were like, "Oh, it's not like bad. It's not like you know, like it wasn't like it didn't blow anybody's minds or whatever and stuff like that. But it was just
right,
like it was like, oh, like this is like a decent, you know, editor's cut or whatever and stuff.
right, right.
And then Peter kind of like showed me and Ruthie like some of the like kind of the tricks of the trade or whatever for the next couple weeks, and we would
Okay.
just kind of show him cuts, and then me and Ruthie would show me stuff that she did, and I showed her stuff that I did, and then yeah, and then we basically kind of got it up together to do the director's cut, and then my boss was like, okay, well, we'll do the director's cut if nobody notices, like awesome. And
Yeah,
then the director got it, and like in scripted, like directors are mostly hired guns and they don't give a shit anyway. So the director was like, yeah, this is great. Gave us like a page of notes and fucking
oh,
said it
that's
was
good.
awesome or whatever. But yeah, he said he liked it and everything and stuff. But I mean, like just the way the directors are in scripted, like, you know, most of the time they're hired guns. Like they come in and they've already spent like a month like
Right,
prepping the show and directing it and doing all that stuff. So they're kind of done by the time it gets to the editors, you know, they're cut
right,
and everything and
right.
stuff. Then we sent out the producer's cut, but Dan didn't watch it. And then that's when like all the producers for the show came in, and like most of them worked with Ruthie. I worked with one of the EPs. I worked with Joe like one time or whatever and stuff, but I was working at nights, so everybody was gone by the time, most of the time or whatever. So I didn't get to work with them as much. So we had gotten to, and then we'd worked with Dan, and then he basically came in, and me and Ruthie were in the same room, and she would work on the acts that she worked on, and I would work on the acts that I worked on, and we would just like switch and everything and stuff like that. And yeah, and then we'd work with Dan, and it was pretty cool. Like, you know, I wasn't like, at first I was a little nervous. I was a little intimidated, but after like, you know, hanging out with him, you know, in the room, like, you know, he's just like, you know, he's just a normal dude or whatever and stuff. So
Right.
it wasn't that bad. Yeah. And then basically we sent it out to the studio, and the studio like loved it and everything. So yeah, we like got it
Nice.
done, and we actually sent it out a locked cut of our first episode. And like, I remember like me and Ruthie were like walking around at night after we had sent out the locked cut and be like, we're going to win an Emmy. This is the greatest show. Like, this is the greatest episode of television I've ever seen or whatever. And of course that did not happen.
Did you really think that? Were you like, yeah,
Oh,
this
dude,
is it. This
yes.
is it.
We were so full of ourselves. We were just like, this thing is so good. Like, you know, and everything and stuff. And of course, it was just like another episode of TV and nobody gave a shit.
Well, what's funny is you would even go on to edit better episodes. That's what's funny about
Oh,
that.
yeah. But I mean, it
Of
was
Community, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what's
yeah, yeah.
funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
But at the
crazy.
time, we thought it was the greatest. We thought it was the greatest episode. Like, this is the one that's gonna, like, people are just gonna love it. And then, like, me and her were both on Twitter watching like the live feed, and people were just like, "Yeah, it's all right, it's cool." Like, so yeah,
Well, hey, I mean, you got in. That's the
yeah,
big
yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah, and so because of that, Ruthie got asked to do a couple episodes in season 3, and then I think Jake felt kind of like, well, if she gets some, then Jeff should get some because they did the same amount of
Right,
work or whatever.
right, right.
So I got one episode in season 3, like that was guaranteed or whatever, and then basically, so that episode turned out to be the Remedial Chaos Theory one with the multiple timelines and
Yeah,
everything.
excellent,
And
excellent episode, I gotta say.
it was the hardest thing I'd ever had to do in my entire life. Like,
I believe it, man. I
it
believe that
was
one.
because like I had never done anything that complex with that much intercutting in my entire life. And so I was just kind of like figuring it out. And then like I remember getting it together and showing the editor's cut, and like I was so nervous because I'm just like, I don't know if this is good. I've seen this like 10,000 times because I cut it like 1,000 different ways. Like I had tried one way of like where it was like Groundhog's Day, where like every time it got into where every time it reset, you would go back to the buzzer or whatever, like kind of thing. That's like the Groundhog Day version of that
Right,
kind of thing.
right,
And
right.
then there's sliding doors where basically you kind of like rewind a lot all the way or whatever. And then there's
You do any split screen action on
no, I
stuff?
never tried that.
Okay,
I
that's
tried it, but
good.
it didn't work. It didn't work very well or
Yeah.
whatever.
So for
Yeah.
everyone that doesn't know, I highly recommend this episode. It's Remedial Chaos Theory, season 3, episode 4.
Yeah.
And basically, just to sum up, if people haven't seen it, they're in an apartment, and it's a party. It's a party within the group. Six different timelines, right? 6 different timelines.
Seven.
Oh yeah, they're set.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's 7 with
Yeah.
Jeff. Yeah, because Jeff doesn't roll. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they switch each timeline with a roll the dice,
Mhm.
right? And that's
Yep.
how it goes to the different timeline. But it kind of starts over, so it's kind of Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened in those other timelines.
I bet there are no other timelines. Okay. Starting on my left with 1, your number comes up, you go.
Just so you know, Jeff, you were not creating 6 different timelines.
Of course I am, Abed. 4.
So what was the main challenge of it? Was it just
It just getting it to make sense because like
Okay.
the director like kind of got what was happening,
Mhm.
and the writer and the director really didn't see eye to eye about what the episode was supposed to be or whatever and stuff. And
Okay.
so basically, and none of the people like I don't well it doesn't matter like I don't know but none of the people none of the people on the show really got the episode, so nobody really knew like where they were in the timeline or like anything, so everybody was just
Oh.
like, and none of the jokes were working because everybody was just kind of confused of what the hell was going on and stuff. A lot of the jokes that were supposed to hold you over like didn't work, so we cut so many jokes on it because they just fell flat because like the
Mm.
performances weren't good or whatever and stuff. And so it ended up being, a comedy that was like 17 minutes long with no jokes in it, and it was so nerve-wracking because we had no idea if anybody would like it because it was basically totally based on, if they liked the concept, the episode would work. If they didn't, this would be the most boring episode of all time or whatever and stuff.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so we tried it like 1,000 different ways. And even like when I showed it, my editor's cut, like everybody was just like, dude, this is going to be an amazing episode of TV. And I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it because it's like, I am so like far in it. I can't tell and everything.
Well, you know what really helped? So you probably didn't have it. It was the computer graphic of the dice going
Yeah.
up, and then it goes back down into like a different timeline per se,
Yeah.
kind of, right?
So that's the thing. So that's basically that happened like at the 11th hour. Basically, like
Yeah.
we were having a really hard time trying to differentiate between the timelines because we tried
Yes.
the Groundhog Day idea, we tried the sliding doors idea, we tried like with Jake Gyllenhaal source code. I tried like a source code where
Mhm.
basically like you went back, but it was like at a different point, and that was even more confusing and stuff.
Oh yeah,
And so
yeah.
we just tried everything. And so,
Mhm.
and then at the 11th hour, like I get called into like a meeting with all the EPs and stuff. And like, we're just trying to figure out like how the fuck we were going to make this make sense or whatever. And then basically like, I think it was, I don't remember who said it. I think it was Dan or Chris or somebody was just like, we just need to knock them over the head of like, what the fuck is happening. Cause like we know because we've all we wrote the episode, but we need to like basically say like, we're going from timeline 1 to timeline 6 or whatever and stuff. Like everybody like sat down and brainstormed like this way of like, okay, well, if we did it like this or whatever. And so we had this like crude idea of like what it would look like. And then basically, so I had to like kind of edit something that would give us enough time, but we had no idea what it would look like. And then he had these guys that he'd work with Channel 101. Literally, we did not know what it would look like until after the mix of the show, because it took them, because it was so late in the thing that like we literally like cut it in like 20 hours before it aired. Like,
oh, wow.
It was, yeah. So it was just like, so we had no idea. So literally like I had no idea what it was until after I watched it with you guys. And like seriously. And it was just like, always, I remember watching it and nobody laughed the entire time. And I'm like, I'm never going to work this down again. And then you guys are like, holy fuck, that was so fucking weird, man.
It's very dense. It's definitely, because you're kind of expecting a comedy, and then it's like, whoa, it's a very, that's awesome. It's a very, very good episode. It's a lot for, what's it, 22 minutes, right? I was like,
well, no, it's everything. Well, that's the thing, is like everything was, we put a whole episode that was supposed to be like, it was like on the shorter spectrum,
right?
But it was like maybe a 27 page script. And we took 10 minutes out. So it ended up being only like 17 minutes long.
Oh, wow.
So because of that, that's why the tag of it is the thing with the darker timeline. Like that was never supposed to be there. But like Chris McKenna, the writer, was like, they just like, you have to fill out, 2.5 minutes. So this is to time, or else we're going to lose a lot of money or whatever. And stuff like that.
Right.
And so, so he came up with the darkest timeline thing. And then like,
oh, that's cool.
But we cut that together, I don't know, in like an afternoon. Like we had, like, it was like, so it was like so fast. And then like, like I just remember like it wasn't kind of working. And then I put the music, there was like a music thing at the end where like they looked at each other's, like where it said like Troy and Abed being, or like,
the Troy. Yeah.
So I put like this music cue there, and like it kind of just like brought everything together of just like how stupid it was. And then once we did that, we're like, oh, this is at least the tag's funny or whatever and stuff like that.
Wait, do they say Troy and Abed being evil? Is that what they say?
It's like Troy and Abed being evil, or Troy and Abed. It's been so long, man. I haven't watched it in so long, dude.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Evil Troy and evil Abed.
So really the content was only 17 minutes? Dang.
Yeah, the content,
Man,
like we had put 7 timelines into like 17 minutes, and it was like, man, it was so fast.
That's a lot. That's a lot to go through.
Well, it was basically all like there were jokes, but all of just like the one-off jokes that you would normally have in a sitcom or whatever, all those were out. The only jokes that were in there were the ones that were needed through all the different timelines and stuff. So like the Eartha Kitt joke or whatever.
Oh yeah,
like, and then like the thing with Roxanne, like initially they wanted to turn it off because they thought it was going to be too expensive to have Roxanne for so long. So in the initial cut, like she stopped it every time. And then, so like on all the footage, like nothing was playing. And then, so when we did that, we're like, man, this is boring as hell. And so I basically did a version where she didn't cut, or she didn't stop it or whatever, which was kind of hard to do because she like on all the footage, she's like going and stopping anyway, whatever.
Right.
But like, but once we did that and then found out from the music guys, like, oh, it's the same amount, whatever. It doesn't matter how long, because we bought the song for the episode or whatever.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, how much is the Roxanne song?
I'm gonna say $250,000,
but my gosh!
But I don't. It was a long time ago. But I remember it being,
and that's
very,
probably
very
like
surprised.
30 seconds or less, right? Probably, right?
Probably, yeah. Like it was. I mean, like any song that you hear on the radio costs $50,000. Any song transcended generations, $250,000. If it's Jimi Hendrix or the Beatles,
on TV,
yeah. if it's Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, or Led Zeppelin, $1 million easy. Like, yeah, it was crazy.
Well, all right, sweet. And then kind of from then on, you were kind of, because the next, that season 3, you were kind of off to the races, right? Or wait, you edited 2 episodes. Were you still AEing then?
Yeah, so I was AEing.
Okay.
I had moved from night AE to day. I was still AEing, but then I did Remedial Chaos Theory, and then basically I had done that one. Everybody liked it, but then we were kind of like off to the races, and the the episodes were already taken up by everybody. And then middle of the season, the finale was going to be bigger than they thought it was going to be. The guy that was supposed to do the Ken Burns episode or whatever, like didn't
Also
really
an
have
excellent
time.
episode,
Yeah, but didn't have time. Was just like didn't have time to do it, and because he was like so swamped on the episode that he was doing, because there was they were running into a bunch of problems with reshoots and stuff like that.
What
And
was
so,
this a paintball episode? Is that what he was working?
No, the season 3 was the one where Chang tried to make them think that they were all crazy. But yeah, it just like ended up just taking longer than they had planned or whatever and stuff. So it really helped everybody out if I could do this one, because everybody was kind of like getting behind on their episodes, which happens like all the time during like a 24 episode like season. It always happens. So so I told my boss, I was like, hey, like I love Ken Burns. Like I watch the baseball documentary like every year. I know how to do this or whatever.
You watch it every year? Wow,
I watch it every year before baseball season because I love it. It's great.
Isn't it like a 10-part doc or something?
Yeah, it's a part because 10 is put up in 2. Yeah, but
wow, that's amazing. Okay.
I just like I love his documentaries and stuff.
Oh
and
yeah,
so
they're great.
So I had got to do that one, and then basically like everybody thought it was supposed to be easy because like there was just a bunch of pictures, and I didn't actually have to deal with like footage and stuff, but it ended up being harder because nobody like put that much time into it because they thought it was going to be an easy episode. So the photographer kind of like,
you didn't really pay attention.
And I mean, there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of like reposing and stuff like that and everything. And like, there wasn't a lot of like rhyme or reason why they were doing certain things and stuff. So I ended up feeling like I was doing like making a documentary and stuff like that. Cause I'm just basically trying to take stuff and put it together and trying to make it make sense and everything. And so there was this one time that there's this part where Chevy Chase like puts together this thing that was like a pillow suit or whatever.
Okay, yes.
And like we cut it to be kind of like a Bigfoot, like finding Bigfoot kind of thing or whatever, like the Bigfoot like footage that you see all the time during in those like, and so we put that together, but we needed him to say something, and we brought him in to like say, come back, you little kids, or something or whatever.
Right.
And so he came in, and he was just like didn't want to be there, was just a dick to everybody. Like a dick to everybody, like all the people doing ADR, like all like my friend who was like scheduling the ADR, like he was just being an asshole. And so like we got nothing. And then like the guy who did the ADR, he like comes back, he's like, dude, we couldn't get him to say anything. Like he just like didn't want to be there or whatever. Like and I'm just like, maybe if we beep it, it'll be funny or something like that or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So I basically cut together a thing where he said, from like a bunch of different takes, where he said like, come back here, you little fuckers. And then I beeped out the fuckers part.
Oh, nice.
And then like it ended up being like hilarious, and people had like no one noticed or whatever. There was just a lot of like little stuff where people like thought it came together super easy, and it was really hard.
It was hard. Okay. And that's a good note. Yeah.
Like it took me a while to kind of get how to do it because of just the amount of footage there was compared to stills, and when to use stills compared to footage and everything. But we found a pretty good balance, like where it started out with the stills as like an homage, and then when you get to the actual episode, like that's when you get into the footage part of it, just because
Sure.
And so and it seemed to work out pretty well.
Cool. And then so then after that, you were off to the races with editing, right? Pretty much.
Yeah. So no. Well, so that what happened there is Dan got fired at the end
Oh,
of season
right.
3.
Right.
So that pilot season, did a pilot with everybody, with a bunch of people that worked on Community, and the pilot did like amazingly, which we did not think it was going to do that well. But it was kind of like just a job, and then basically we're going to get a month more pay, and then the show won't get picked up, and then we'll just try to figure something out for the next season. And
Sure.
then they screened our show in one of those like malls or whatever when they used to do those test screenings at malls and stuff.
Hmm.
And like it got like the highest rating NBC has ever gotten on a pilot at that time, which
Wait,
was
what? Wait,
insane.
what show is this?
Show's called Animal Practice.
Oh, okay. So this is rule number
Or
one to never trust
yes, never trust those things.
those
Some
things.
people might
Yeah.
know it as Monkey Hospital. Yeah,
Or
but basically it was on.
or the show that ruined the closing ceremonies at the Winter Olympics. I
Correct.
believe.
That would
They
also be
might also know
yes.
about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It ruined obviously went on instead of the Who hadn't been together for like 30 years, because that was a great idea. It wasn't a bad show, but it wasn't a bad show, but it wasn't a great show. But everybody that worked on it was great. So
It wasn't
like,
as creative as Community. I'll say
no,
that.
no, no, no.
It
But
wasn't. Didn't have
community,
that flair. You know what I mean?
Dan wasn't on it, so we kind of felt solidarity to Dan, so we didn't jump on that. We ended up doing that show.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
because Community kept going with a different showrunners, right?
I mean, yeah, with different showrunners, but pretty much everybody, like half of the people that I worked with on Community stayed, and the other half like was with me on Animal Practice. And then
Nice.
it was kind of like funny that like even Community was making fun of Animal Practice.
They
Like,
did? Oh,
yeah,
no.
dude, we were the butt of everybody's joke. It was just so weird to work on a show that was like critically acclaimed to being a show that was like literally the butt of every joke. But yeah, so I did that, and then got let go because the show got canceled.
Yes.
Yeah, and then basically from there, I got a job working with the sound team that worked on Community. They had like a kind of like a production company that basically like got horror movies and tried to fix them to
Oh,
sell
right.
them. So like there were horror movies. They were like, it's basically like if a movie does bad and they can't pay back the bond that they got for the loan for the movie, like the bank will seize the movie
Oh,
and
wow.
take all the footage and stuff like that from the director and everybody. And then basically a producer that like thinks that the movie might be worth something, or they could sell it overseas or whatever, or they can fix it and make money off of it. They'll buy it for like pennies on a dollar and then try to fix it and then sell it to somebody or whatever. And so it got this like found footage movie, and like they were going to do the sound on it, but one of the producers was like, hey, I really want to like edit some of this stuff. Like, do you know an editor that could like edit it in a short amount of time?
Hmm.
So they recommended me to do it. And
Sweet.
I didn't realize it, but it was like funded by like Fox. And so they did like one of those like theater screenings at like Burbank, like the Burbank AMC, where you got, it was like free and everybody like rated the movie afterward. And so
Hmm.
I got to go to one of those, and it was brutal. That movie was not good.
The audience was not kind to that.
There was a lot of problems with the movie that couldn't be solved in the 2 days that I had to work on it.
Yeah.
So the fact that got to the point where I was like, we were so overwhelmed that we were just trying to just get it there and it to play. That's basically like what our standards were at the time. And then, and then it played, and like, it was just really boring. It was like a really boring horror movie and stuff. And so I took it as a win that everybody stayed till the end. They just hated the ending because nobody died.
Right.
And
Right.
there's nothing I could do about that because that's what they shot or whatever and stuff.
Right.
And so I tried to like, I was trying to say like, I think it's great that they're like, because after the first time I watched the movie, I gave up after 20 minutes because it was the most boring piece of shit I'd ever seen. And like, but this one that we fixed, like at least you got to
Yeah.
the end
Mhm.
and you were disappointed at the ending. Like that's fine. I feel like I did my job if I could do if I did that. If you at least like watch the entire movie or whatever and stuff.
Right,
But
right, right.
it did not do well. And then Fox or the producer, um, I didn't hear from for a little bit, and then he basically contacted me like a month later, and he's like, "Hey, I think I want to like try to cut this down and like try to sell it, to some other markets or whatever and stuff." I'm like, "Okay," so that's when we actually got like, a couple weeks to like actually go through all the footage and try to fix as much as we did, and then and then like it ended up being kind of like a cult like found footage movie. It wasn't a great movie, but it wasn't like, but like people made T-shirts of it and everything, and like
What was the name of this movie?
the houses that October built.
Oh, nice. And then you did a season 5 of Community.
No, before, yeah, and then I did season 5 of Community while I was doing a bunch of other stuff, and then
Uh-huh.
we had done the final episode and the final like tag of it, and we sent it off to NBC, and then basically got a call saying like, we need legal to look at this or whatever. We're like, what? And then basically like, basically like the final tag of season 5 was just making fun of all the terrible shows that NBC had ever done, and why. As I'm editing it, I'm just going like, oh yeah, this is the last episode of Community I'm ever
Community
gonna work
ever,
on.
huh? But then you're off. I just want to highlight a couple of the other shows that I think were pretty cool. You
Okay.
worked on Wrecked, which I thought was a pretty good,
I still
pretty
think
awesome show. Yeah,
it's a very underrated show, and I think the
yeah, me
Shipleys are
too.
the Shipleys are a lot funnier than I don't know. I hope they get to do another show because it was a lot of fun.
And the Shipleys are the showrunners. Is that
The
correct?
Shipleys are the showrunners, correct?
Nice. And then so what was the takeaways from that? Was it just
Yeah, basically like with that show, it was more of how to make something that has no budget look like it has a huge budget. And like at first it was really really hard, but then the DP and the director, the guy like the dude who did the pilot, they're from the UK, so they are like all the BBC shows are made so cheap and everything that so they just know how to do a lot with very little. And the stuff that they could do, like the shit that we could do that made the show look like it was a lot higher budget than it was amazing. And with a very small amount of VFX and everything. So I was pretty I thought that was pretty amazing. And then
nice?
yeah, and that was the first show I'd ever worked on that had a full music editor the entire season. So basically,
nice.
and so like usually on hour-long shows, they have a music editor that they just give everything to because the music changes so much and everything. So the editor is kind of like they edit everything together, they get it into a place where they like it, and then they send it to the music guy and they
okay, just kind of fit it in.
yeah, just because it's easier because there's so much you have to do so much shit on it and everything. And it doesn't happen on all the shows, but a lot of the Bad Robot shows that I worked near had one on there and everything. And it's more like an hour drama kind of thing.
Was Wrecked an hour or was it?
It wasn't, but the guy that was the post soup budgeted out that we had it because the show was literally wall-to-wall music. There was no time where there was no like silence and everything. Yeah, so basically he had it on all the shows that he'd worked on, but he was more of like an hour drama kind of guy.
Okay.
And so yeah, he budgeted into the show. And so I had never worked on a show that did that or whatever. And right. It was cool to have. And it was just, it was also cool to have somebody who like worked on stuff and could give us like, it was cool just to have another pair of like, another opinion about the shows. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Next show I want to hit on here. Mapleworth Murders for Quibi here.
Oh, the Quibs. Quibi.
How was that? How was Quibi? Short and sweet?
Very short. It ended up being only like 3 episodes long. But the episodes were all divvied
5
up into
minutes?
like 5-minute chunks or whatever.
Okay.
So basically, we got a shitload of time to do like 3 episodes TV and stuff like
Mm.
that. The hardest part of that was that we had to do 2 versions of it. You had to do a normal version. It was like any other show, like a widescreen, like any other like
Right.
half-hour comedy. But then you had to do a version of the show that was vertical. So you had to do all these like panel stuff or whatever. And they were
Yeah.
still trying to figure out the format of doing it and everything.
Right.
But it was a cool show to work on. I met a lot of like nice people that worked on the show. And then the woman that's like the star of the show, Paula Pell, she's like really, really nice. And she was like, I don't know, she's really funny and everything.
And then another one, you can just talk about it briefly, was you cut on Speechless, which was a pretty big show.
At the time, yeah, it was pretty big.
That was pretty big, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised that got canceled because it seemed like it got great ratings.
I got pretty good
going, yeah.
Basically, they didn't want to cancel it because it was getting good ratings and people liked it, but they wanted to use that time slot for other shows, that other newer shows and stuff. So they moved us and Fresh Off the Boat on a Friday. And once you move to Fridays, you're pretty fucked. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. And they tried to make it seem like, oh, we're trying to restart TGIF or whatever, but we're all just like, yeah, we're
You didn't believe that? Okay.
I don't know, not one bit.
All right. But yeah, any fun things from that show?
Yeah, I mean, I loved working with the creator Scott. He was awesome. He's like just a really cool guy to work with.
Cool.
And then and then Chris Gernon, the EP director, thought she's fun. She worked on a UK show and stuff like that, and so she had all these cool stories with that. And then
how was Cedric Yarbrough, that actor?
that dude, he's pretty funny. Like,
yeah, because he was on Reno, right? He was on Reno 911. Yeah.
No, he was his like you could always cut to him or John Ross Bowie, who was the dad. You could cut to those 2 guys at any time, and they were like always on and everything. And then I think the hardest part was cutting Micah, who's the kid who played JJ, the kid that was in the wheelchair. It's hard you're trying to convey like emotion, but he can't speak or whatever and stuff like that. So trying to figure out how to do that was a little tough at first, but then once you get it, like, you pick it up and everything and stuff. But everybody on the show was like pretty nice and everything. And that's the thing that stuck is like by the end, I thought we had like a good groove going, and I thought we could do like a couple more seasons or whatever, but didn't work out.
I mean, that's kind of TV in general, right? It just seems like.
Well, yeah. So that's when I found out that like it's kind of like from the old sitcom days or the old syndication days or whatever. But there's this thing in a contract that if you get to a 4th season, once you get past the 3rd season, everybody gets a huge pay bump. And so that's why a lot of shows don't go past the 3rd season, because that's still part in the contract and stuff. So you'll see a lot of shows on unless it's a huge show.
Yeah, unless it's like
Netflix,
just massive, right?
Yeah, like it's going to be done after like no more than 3 seasons.
Is that the same for streaming or no?
Yeah, you'll see it on Netflix a lot. No show goes past 3 seasons. Like, unless it's like Stranger Things or like,
something massive,
where it's like worth having it go, but like, yeah.
All right, next show. Let's talk about Dave here. This is a cult TV show. I feel like the people that like this show are super, super into it. So that's
true.
They're I don't know if you've met like Dave fans, but they're pretty hardcore about this show.
I have not met many Dave fans.
Really?
I have not. Yeah.
Yeah, because the people I meet that like Dave, they're like hardcore into it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But like hardcore.
Yeah.
But the one that I thought was pretty cool. That was Harrison Avenue, episode 2 of season 3 here.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it because you were telling me about this and you were saying like, oh man, I don't know how this is going to turn out. There's like this music video and we're intercutting with like real life where he's doing a music video about the girl and that girl shows up on set and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got to intercut the video and you're like, I don't know if this is going to work, but I watched it and it turned out great. It was really fantastic. So
Nice.
yeah. So why don't you talk like, yeah, what were the challenges or the fun things about this that
The
that you like?
challenge is ever since Birdman came out, every director
Yes.
under the sun wants to do a oneer
A
episode.
one. Oh, geez. This was a
And
water episode. It's supposed to be a.
this was pitched as a oneer episode.
Oh,
And
geez.
so you could do a oneer episode, but not on a half-hour comedy. You can't, like, you could, but it would take a lot more planning.
Yes.
And like it just
Yes.
you'd have to really plan for devices on how to cut to stuff and everything. But
Yeah.
so the problem that we had was that like the first like 12 minutes of the show only had one take of everything. Of like it had multiple takes of it, but only had one angle of just the camera just moving with it or whatever. So trying to find cut points was tough. So, you know, having stuff of people like moving in front of the camera we had to use, and then finding random shots of like people or whatever that we could cut to that might work and everything. Probably by the end of the first act, it got to where they actually started shooting two cameras and everything. And so we were able to cut it a little bit more like a normal show, but you still wanted it to feel like it was a oneer, if that makes sense or whatever. So you wanted to use like as much of a take as you could and everything, and only cut to something if you absolutely needed to, kind of thing.
Right.
And so that was kind of the trick of just like feeling like where that point was basically. And it was a lot of trial and error, like, you know,
but you were still cutting to the music video, right? So that's not.
Yeah. So sorry, but after the music video, once the music video is done, then they wanted it to be like a oneer until the next thing. Yeah. And then basically kind of like the way that we had figured out it worked the best is kind of like starting in the act with the music video and then going from the music video into real life seemed to work the best. And
that worked really good.
Yeah, and trying to go in and out was just really, really hard. And so we basically like once you're out of the video, you're out of the video.
Started hanging out up in the basements, playing spin the bottle, watching her turn land on Jason. I closed my eyes until we played the nervous game where I would place my hand up on her breast over her bra. That was incredible. That was raw. I jerked off to that all fall. Winter snow days watching television. Like, come on.
Get ready to go again, please.
Okay, everybody. Right now, you're making a super lowbrow face when you're grabbing her breasts. Opposite energy. It's emotional. This is the love of your life, not some little slut.
You guys are doing really great. We're just looking for some levels, like the intention.
Guys, please, I gotta talk to you for a second. Play it cool.
And the only time we were able to do it where it worked was at the end, but we actually had to like cut to black. It was almost like kind of like another act, but we just had to do it just or else it looked weird going straight from like an episode all the way into the music video, because you didn't know, like you needed something to tell the audience like, oh hey, we're starting over again or whatever. Yeah. The guy that directed it had done a bunch of music videos and stuff, so he had shot it kind of like how he would normally do, and so it was fun to like to cut a music video and stuff like that. And just
so
like,
did you cut a whole music video and then just splice in the parts into the or did you just or did you just cut sections of it?
So I cut like 70% of the music video. I cut.
Okay, nice.
And so they had actually released it, and they filled up the last 30% with other stuff or whatever. But yeah, I had kind of probably like about 70%, and then because you never knew when you wanted to go in and out of the music video, like what line and stuff.
Right.
And so cutting the music video was pretty normal. You just kind of like cut on the beat, and you're never on a shot for more than like a half second or whatever.
Did he do that?
I tried the Hype Williams thing, but it didn't work.
That thing,
all the lights thing or whatever. No,
that stuff.
And then basically, and then just working with Dave, like, you know, he definitely has a way that he wants everything to go, and so you kind of like end up like almost like cutting the episode twice kind of thing or whatever and stuff.
So did this take longer than normal because you had to cut like a whole music video or what?
Well, no, this one was actually like pretty normal. Like this one was pretty easy because like I knew how the show went, basically. So this episode was actually shot last.
Oh, okay. So by this point, you knew
By
the
this point,
deal.
I knew how to cut the episodes and everything, so
Okay.
it went pretty smooth. And so this one,
Oh, nice.
yeah. So I went together really well, and like Dave had a lot of like really good performances, and the woman who was
Yeah.
his girlfriend was really really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, in the grand scheme of all the episodes that I did, that was probably like the easier one to do because just everything was done
Sure.
pretty well. Like,
Yeah, I think it came together really, really well. So
yeah, I like that one. I thought that was cool.
yeah, especially like with all the, because he had himself as like a kid,
yeah,
as like, or multiple kids, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Really.
yeah.
So
Well, that was the thing is like we spent all this time for the last shot of the movie or the last shot of the video of like the ascendance of man thing where like man
Right.
starts as like a thing and then basically it was supposed to start as him as a child and then moving up and that basically like it was supposed to be him taller and then him himself. He had like it was supposed to be symbolic of him like having still a long way to go and like maturing and everything and stuff like that. And like nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody got it at all. And we spent so much time to try to get it right. And then everybody's like, yeah, I mean, it's a cool shot and everything. And stuff.
right.
Damn it. But it happens all the time.
It still worked, I think.
Oh no! I mean, the whole episode worked really well. It's just funny the stuff that you get caught up on,
Yeah.
like while you're editing, and then people watch it and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I guess that worked." Like, we spent 3 days on it.
What about? Oh, you did the episode R.A.P. Little Dicky, right? That one was pretty good. Do you like that?
Oh yeah, the one where the bus blows up. Yeah,
the bus blows
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am going to take care of this. I can prove to you this is a well-run machine, Let me show you that we can get our shit together here. I promise you, even if it seems bad now, it's not. Oh, shit!
That one was crazy. And the thing that was nuts was like me and Dave were like gonna edit like one morning or whatever, and he calls me up. He's like, dude, you're not gonna fucking believe this, but our tour bus fucking actually blew up because we were supposed to go and shoot some promo shit for the show, and it actually like blew up. It actually like blew up on the side of the road. Like it was fucking crazy. Like I was like, yeah, it was nuts.
man.
But yeah. So
Wait, in real life, it blew up.
in real life,
Oh,
like it's no, and like I can say that, like it was on the news and stuff like that. So, but it was
Dang.
just like weird. He's just like, you're not gonna fucking believe what happened, dude. Like, it's like, so it was.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts.
So then
But-
it blew up, and then he recreated it, blowing up again.
Oh, no, we did the effect,
Yeah.
and then while he was doing promo for like for the show, after we were done doing that episode, like. He was going to the bus to shoot some promo shit on the bus.
Yeah.
And the bus blew up. The bus actually blew up in real life. And like if he would have got there like 10 minutes
Jeez.
beforehand, he might have been on the bus when it blew up or whatever. And shit.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
dude. Yeah, it was nuts.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then what's the episode you're most proud of? Do you have one of those?
There was an episode of Speechless that I did
Mhm.
where like the main character like goes to this his first prom or whatever.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like the 23-minute episode, 23-minute version of that show was like something I was so proud of that episode because like it started out great and everything, but also just like just like it came together so well and all the jokes were working and everything and stuff.
Mhm.
And then we had to take a minute and a half out of it and just like all the fucking soul just left the episode. And so like it's a decent episode, but it was nowhere near as like I would put that episode up to like in the top 5 episodes I've ever done. And like
Oh.
and then now it's kind of like it's okay. Like it's
Well,
like
see,
yeah.
but this could just be your perspective, right? It could, because I remember that
No, no,
episode being
me and
good.
Scott, me and Scott and Chris, like Scott the creator and Chris the EP director, were like, man, I wish people would see the 23-minute version. It's so much
Okay,
better.
all right.
It's so good. Yeah. So, and
So the episode that never came out is your favorite.
yeah, pretty much. And that's the thing is like on network TV shows,
funny.
that's just the way it is, because
You
you got
have
to
to
take
get it to time, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you have to get it to time. And like, some writers write to where, it's easy to get it to time, and some write it to where it's really freaking hard.
It's tough, yeah.
It's tough, yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the show,
Well,
Jeff.
thanks for having me, man. This has been
No
great.
problem. I'll see you here next time, okay? Next week, dude. Later.